On this James the Bike Guy, we're taking a look at something really neat here. This is the 2020 Specialized Allez Sprint Frameset. So the Specialized Allez has been around for a long time, and it's been a nameplate within their road bike lineup. And in fact, the Allez in today's road bike lineup from Specialized spans the gap from affordable entry-level road bikes, which have more comfortable geometry, all the way up to this bike right here. So this is the Allez Sprint, and the Sprint is the full-on highest end, highest quality aluminum that Specialized makes in an affordable price point, but it really gives you some of the performance you should expect out of a real high-end bike, but at a lower price point. So the Allez Sprint has been around for a little while now, and the Sprint differs from the rest of the bikes in the way that the frame is set up. It's got a cutout for the rear wheel because the wheel wants to tuck up real tight underneath the bottom bracket there. And then the other thing that you'll notice is on the front end of the bike, you're going to get this really large head tube, and the welds actually look just a little bit funky on it. You can see it's like this thick ring that goes around the head tube on the bike. Now the reason for that is that's what they call their Delucio Smartweld. And what the Delucio Smartweld is it's basically a setup where the head tube of the bike is forged in one piece of aluminum, and then they've got rolled edges at the end of the head tube and at the end of the tubes that connect with it, so your top tube and your down tube, that instead of having a traditional weld, it creates this valley that they can fill in with the aluminum to make a really strong weld that's almost like fusing the whole thing together. It gives a lot of surface area for that weld, and it makes it super stiff. And on the Sprint version of this frame, you can actually see they do the same thing on the bottom bracket. So that's kind of a really neat thing. So again, the bottom bracket is all forged in one piece. Down tube goes around, it's got that same Delucio Smartweld or the ring weld that goes there. You've got a weld right for the seat tube junction, and then both of your chainstays are installed in that same fashion. And the beauty of doing that is you end up being able to make an aluminum bike that's going to perform almost identical to a carbon bike. And that's where this bike comes in. So Specialized has a few really cool pieces of info to know on this bike. And the first would be that it should be just as stiff as a SL6 Tarmac. So the current level Tarmac, it should be just as stiff. And in fact, it's the stiffest aluminum bike that Specialized has ever tested. And that's definitely a big thing. The other piece is, because it's rider first engineered, just like their carbon bikes, these frames do vary just a touch between different sizes to make sure that they're all going to ride the same. The other neat thing about this bike is because of the tubing shape and some of the aero benefits of that seat tube junction, as well as the fork that we'll check out here pretty soon, is that this bike is going to be just as fast in aerodynamics as the original generation Venge. So even though it's a standard aluminum style bike, it's going to be just as fast as those bikes. And speaking of Venge, this frame set's going to come with a S-Works carbon fiber aerodynamic seat post, same format as the Venge, and so that's a really nice thing. The other cool thing of part sharing, the same Tarmac SL6 Fact fork. So this is a Fact carbon fiber fork, which is their carbon layup strategy, and it's going to be running a full carbon steer tube, an integrated race for your lower headset bearing. And this thing, it feels very light, and one of the things I really like is just the color. So color wise, that is where you get to have a ton of fun with the Allez Sprints. So the Allez Sprints come in a bunch of colors. I think there's like 6 or 7 for 2020, but this particular bike we're looking at is their chrome black and crimson metallic. So it's hard to see here, but the crimson metallic on this fork, it's almost like a real deep maroon to almost root beer color, which is gorgeous. And then on the frame, it's also difficult to see, but this is a black chrome finish, and it really just makes for an amazing look. And Well, color's not everything when purchasing a bike. I mean, it's one of those things that really just makes this look and feel very cool. Now, with the bike in hand, we can see that the majority of the cable routing is all going to run internal, your brakes, your down tube, but on the rear end of the bike, it's actually going to be external. And they do that because it's going to make serviceability quite a bit easier. They expect a lot of people who are buying these bikes to use them for racing, crit events, even just a budget level super light bike. And the external cable routing in the rear makes it easy to use. And on the down tube, as well as the top tube, you can see these ports that are removable to make it much easier to be able to fish through cables through the bike. The other thing you'll notice is the integrated headset. So this is a place where it's a little bit unique compared to some of the other bikes that are out there. So the headset cups are actually pressed into this aluminum frame, but you can see the lower bearing cup is actually pressed a little bit higher. And that's because that allows for a really nice interface with that fork over there. And it is specific to the way that the Specialized bikes go together, but that's part of how they get that really great handling out of the bike. Other things to mention for 2020, the Allez Sprint is Di2 compatible. It's also going to be able to run a front derailleur, so you have the full range of gearing. And that's a little bit different from when the Allez Sprint came out, because the very first generation of this Allez Sprint, 100% a 1x setup. Now they did come away from that a little bit, and so it's nice to see that they've got the 2x setup available and the ability to run Di2. Now, some of the real neat geometry of this bike is actually going to come to the chainstay length. So chainstay length is a really important thing to how the bike handles. And on the back of this bike, the chainstays are actually only 410 millimeters. So that's from center of bottom bracket to axle. And to put that in perspective, 410 is actually the shortest for a rim brake bike that Shimano allows to be within compliance for their 2x drivetrains. So basically Specialized is tucking that wheel as far in as they can to make the bike perform as well as it can, because a shorter chainstay means a much faster handling bike, and that's going to make for a good geometry that matches up with the head tube angle of 73 degrees. And a 73 degree head tube angle means that the fork is going to be very reactive. It's going to make sure that this bike handles and feels very, very nice. And so the geo of this should be super confidence inspiring. Now the one we're checking out is rim brake. It's one of the few rim brake performance bikes that you can still get. So it's a nice option if you want to stay rim brake, but they do also have this same setup in disc. So if that's your kind of thing, that bike is available. So now that we've taken a look at some of the features of this bike, let's go ahead and find out what it weighs. So to get started with measuring how much the frame weighs, this is a brand new frame, so it actually comes from the factory with bottom bracket bearings already pressed in. So what I'm going to do is place a replacement set of those bearings in the box here, because we want to take that weight out. The other thing is it did come installed with the Specialized headset. This is the replacement headset bearings that are specific to this frame. We're going to place that in as well. So that brings a total tare weight of 100 grams for the bearings. So we're going to hit the tare button here, which is going to allow us to take those bearings out. We're going to come back to 100, and now this is going to give us a baseline to be able to actually get the full frame weight here. So with the frame on here, it comes to 1445. That's the weight. It does include all the hardware, but we did go ahead and take out the weight of the bearings. Our next piece, starting at 0 without the tare, the fork is going to come in at straight 400 grams. So now we're looking at a frame and fork weight of 1845. And then finally, the seat post comes in at 194, which makes for a total weight for frame, fork, seat post, all the hardware, all the good stuff at 2,039 grams, which is really quite reasonable for a performance aluminum bike like this. Well, thanks for watching this video on the Specialized Allez Sprint. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And while you're at it, hit the thumbs up. It lets me know that you enjoyed the video.